And we are live on the United Public Radio Network, UPRN, 107.7 FM New Orleans and 105.3 FM the Gulf Coast. How cool is that? And we are being live streamed wherever podcasts live, my YouTube channel, etc. So we're not hard to find. To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. I'm a ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother and abbot for the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. I'm a team member of Society of St. Benedict and co-founder of GhostBegone.biz. And yeah, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents a Legion of Exorcists, which premiered on Travel Channel and is currently streaming everywhere if you haven't caught that show yet. And if there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. If you go there to visit, there's a lot of cool things to see. Both my books are there. And they are a little less expensive at Amazon, and they also come available in an audio version. But if you purchase them off the website, I autograph them. They leave my office here, and they arrive to you in a beautiful house blessing kit. How cool is that? You never know when one of those are going to come in handy. But the great thing about purchasing them off of the website is part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books off the website goes to support stjude.org and the ASPCA. So how cool is that? You get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. There's a place where you can enroll in my online course there on the website. And if there's a need for you to reach out to me for any spiritual issues, there's a place where you can make an appointment to speak with me. So that's my song and dance, and I'm sticking to it. But most importantly, brothers and sisters, trust me, I know times are tough. But my wife and I, we don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with our paranormal issues. So if you are visiting the website and you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, please click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you, it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. Okay, we have a great show today, but you all already knew that. That's why you tuned in. This is a show that happens once a month. It's quickly becoming a fan favorite. It's First Fridays with Father Shawn and Annette, and this is a open mic Q&A session, if you will, between Annette and I and all of you, especially those of you that have tuned in and watching the live stream and you have access to the chat room. We are taking questions today throughout the whole show from the chat room, and no topic is off limits. So feel free to put Annette's feet to the fire and rake old Father Shawn over the coals on any topic you want to discuss. But we pretty much know most of the questions are going to be about the paranormal, and that's why we're here, which is very, very cool. So on that note, it's time for me to bring out my paranormal partner in crime. I've known her forever. I love her. I respect her. She's a lifelong paranormal experiencer and the owner of Stellium Books, my publisher. Please give a big, warm paranormal ministry family welcome to the one and only Annette Munich.
Hi, Father Shawn. Hi, everybody. Hi, New Orleans people. And very, very glad to be here today. Very excited. We always have such a good time on our First Friday show. So,
Yeah, like I said, the prayer urn's full. We'll have to. Don't let me forget to get into the prayer urn and say a couple of prayers before the show wraps up later. The mailbag's full because I've neglected that, um, and I know you're monitoring the chat room, so if anybody has a question for us in the chat, you'll let me know, and we'll address that. Otherwise than that, you look very pretty today. How are you doing? Give us
well,
a update.
I
You were
am
having a
doing
lot
good.
of.
I'm doing good. Actually, I'm doing pretty great. I had a fabulous phone call today one of my other authors, and we're going to do a revised edition of a baseball book, true story that he did before he met me, and he's a Hall of Fame coach in Atlanta. He has a high school stadium named after him. And I'd like to bring him on in October because he's got some really creepy true stories. And his name is
Absolutely.
Buck Godfrey. If you're listening, Buck, hearts from me and hello, and hope you're feeling better soon. He's had some health struggles lately, so we're praying for him.
You're good to go. That's an awful long way out there to book, but if he wants to book now, get back to me later and let me know. I've got Fridays that is still open. Of course, first Friday is booked, and of
Well,
course,
what
Halloween night, last Friday of the month,
what
Susan's here. So
what I'm trying to do is, because it'll be a creepy show, go for October, and that gives him time to feel better and finish his revisions because I don't want him to feel rushed.
cool. Well, we'll try and shoot for the Friday before Halloween and get
Okay.
everybody in the mood for Halloween, and then Susan will be here Halloween night. Unless
Okay.
that's a very busy time of the year for her. I'm hoping she doesn't have an event that night. But if she doesn't, she's scheduled to be here Halloween night, which is the last Friday in October. So I think I'm booked out to the end of August. So anything after that, um,
I'm going to take one of the October slots for him because I have a very cute story when I was working on his book. He said, we were really close to publishing, and he said, maybe I should change some of the names because some of these people are still alive. And that was the moment that I realized these were true stories. I thought he sent me a collection of short stories that he wrote that were fictional. And that book is really creepy. I stopped working on it at night. Um, but a very good book, very beautifully written. Used to be an English teacher, very cool guy. Um,
I'm really looking forward to meeting him, whoever this gentleman is. You can
Buck
keep him. You can
Godfrey,
keep him. You, pardon?
Buck Godfrey,
Oh,
William Buck Godfrey.
very, very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. Any date you want to bring him on, other than those two dates that are already booked in October, are he's welcome to come aboard. I can't wait to meet him. He sounds like a very interesting
I told him all
individual.
about you too. And we have a question from Infinite Joy, and she said, "When's the third book coming out, Father Shawn?"
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to give away something that you and I are working on.
Right.
So
We
I'll.
could.
I won't say anything about that. But I have begun working on the third book. It probably won't come out for another year, but it's going to be very interesting. There's a couple of true stories in there. A case that was far too scary for them to put on the TV show, and then a case that I recently worked since becoming an ordained priest, which is going to have an ending like to that case like no one's heard from me before because it's was much different. Of course, I approached it in a much different way now, being an ordained Catholic priest and a Benedictine and all that. So that's a very different kind of scary and ending with a feel good story kind of a story. There'll be a lot in the book about my journey from God deciding I was going to do this before I was born to now making it all the way to being the abbot for a Benedictine community and a ordained priest. I get a lot of people reaching out to me wanting to know what that story was like because they know I didn't basically enter the seminary till I was 60, and how I got there and that journey is a for a lot of people maybe boring, for a lot of people very inspirational. And then I'm going to tell the true stories of the stories that were featured in the TV show because there's a lot of people that still reach out to me that can't get the show, mainly international people that can't get the show not only in their country, but they can't even purchase it on Amazon Prime. They can't purchase season one. So um, the stories in the show were true. I haven't put pen to paper on those yet, but there's a lot of things about some of those stories that they also just couldn't
And then,
talk about on for a TV show. So
oh,
I'm going to actually get down to the nitty gritty and tell those stories in their entirety and include the thing like final, if you will, for lack of a better term, final director's cut version of those stories um, that didn't appear on the TV show for those people. But I've begun work on it, but it'll probably be a year.
and we have a project that we're putting together too, and we can leave that a little bit of a surprise for now. But there's some really cool things on the horizon. We got Infinite Joy saying, I paid for the Paramount Plus subscription just to watch the show.
Wow. Did you enjoy the show Infinite Joy?
I think she's one of our listeners from Ireland too.
Oh, cool.
I think she's in Ireland.
Very, very cool. I loved the show. I'm very proud of it. Like I said, when they reached out to me before the pandemic, and I thought the person that reached out to me, the producer, was joking, wasn't a real, was just a troll. And I actually turned the show down 2 or 3 times till they finally caught me in a good mood one day, and they had me on a conference call with 2 or 3 of the producers and the director, and finally they sold me on their vision because the main thing was I didn't want a silly show to be out there and make us all these exorcists that I respected and knew, make us all look silly and make the church look bad. But I thought that their vision was really really good, and I think they did a great job on it. And if it goes to a season 2, great. If not, I'm very proud of uh, of the show, and I don't know what else to say.
She said it was great, and she said yes in Ireland.
Oh, very, very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, well, there you go. She had to pay for the Paramount Plus subscription to stream it.
Right.
Very interesting. I didn't know Paramount Plus was available in Ireland, so there you go. There's probably ways, but I get a lot of international people um, reaching out to me, and they just don't have the way the way to get the show. But you know what's funny? I get a ton of people. Apparently, the show is really big, of all places, the Philippines and Asia. I get a lot of people reaching out to me from the Philippines and Asia that love the show, and they want to know when season 2 is. And
Interesting.
I've got no information on that for anybody, so I apologize for that. But I still got my fingers crossed. Maybe it'll happen. Yeah,
And she
Infinite Joy.
just said,
Fingers crossed.
fingers crossed for season 2. Did you see that, or is that a
I did see that. It just popped up.
coincidence? Okay.
So, well, I don't have any other questions here. I don't see. Do you want me to go ahead and start digging into the mailbag?
Let's go in the mailbag.
Okay. Everybody, I get a lot of people say, "Where'd you get that mailbag?" That's an old school ghostbegone.biz
Oh,
mailbag that I used to sell to people to take to Paracons, the paranormal conferences, because as you walk through there, there's a
right.
lot of tables. Vendors have free stuff. You can just
Yeah.
grab them, throw them in your bag, or if you purchase even if you purchase something from them, a book or a signed poster or something, you can still fit it in your mailbag. So let me. Well, there's a handful of them in here. I'm just going to pull them all out. How's that?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, there's about. Well, there's a lot here. Wow. Okay. Isn't this funny? The one right on top, we're talking to Infinite Joy in Ireland. This is from Holly in Scotland. Hello, Holly.
Hi, Holly.
Um, she says, we have a lot of angry ghosts here. Yeah, you do. Can ghosts possess people like demons can? Before I put my 2 cents in, I'll let you have a shot at that.
I'm gonna say yes. And the reason that I think that is because I've seen instances of that with people who are channeling. And channeling is, of course, an invite to do that. But I'm not necessarily saying that they're possessed, like demon possessed, ongoing. But yes, they can use your mouth on your body, yeah, right?
I'm going to now, of course, it's my humble opinion. I'm not an expert. I don't have all the answers. I don't believe there are any experts in this field, and no one has all the answers. And if someone tells you that they do, don't listen to them because they don't. I'm going to say yes too in a limited form, and I'll tell you why. I've seen, like, I've been in sessions with truly gifted physical trance mediums, and they give permission to these spirits to enter them. And like, I remember seeing this one lady one time. As soon as this elderly gentleman entered her actual face changed almost to his face, and you immediately could smell like the cigar smoke coming off her and out of her breath. So, and her voice totally different from this woman's voice to this really old, gruffy, cantankerous old man voice. Um, and it was funny. She claims she doesn't have any recollection of these spirits um, taking her over during the trance. So she's not there to tell it to leave. But after a certain amount of time, the spirit knew it was time to just leave her body. I have a lot of people that have contacted me and said I was on this ghost hunt. And this spirit, I'm told by other team members and other people that were there that this spirit entered my body for a little while. And I'm concerned about that. I believe I have a friend here in town who's been a paranormal experiencer all his life. He heads up one of the biggest paranormal teams here in town. He calls them jumpers. And I do believe they can jump you and they can be in you for a little bit. I recently worked a case um, where this woman was a Hindu and she practices deity yoga, which they, during this yoga sessions, these special spiritual yoga sessions, they invite spirit possession so that they can get messages out to people and so forth. And she had issues with that. She had some spirits that weren't, well, very possession like, in them most of the time, speaking through them a lot at will. They didn't really have any power over this spirit, and they were looking for an exorcist to help with that. So I agree with you. I believe it's possible, not to the degree of demonic possession, but that's why I tell people all the time that you are in this field. Be very careful. Have respect for the locations and respect for the ghosts. They're just people that don't have a body any longer, and don't don't be that one person in the wrong place at the wrong time, saying and doing the wrong thing and provoking and stuff, because bad things happen,
Right,
and I just have to be very, very careful.
right.
Hi, Michelle. Okay, another question.
Another question.
This is Pete in Georgia. Hi, Pete.
Hi, Pete.
So you live in a haunted house. Weirdest paranormal happening that occurred there. Oh my gosh. Uh, where do I start in that?
Yeah, he's got a whole book of them.
you
Well,
you published most of your paranormal novels in your other home and had a lot of issues there. Have you published any books since moving in with your daughter?
yes.
Have you experienced any of those issues there or not so much?
A little bit, but I think they're book related, and then I put the book out and it stops. There
Very
was not
interesting.
a baseline of paranormal activity here normally, but I have lived in other places where there was, um, mostly two places, but well, three. But then I've had other things where, um, well, this one psychic told me, and I tend to believe it. She said that the spirits can tell that I could probably see them or hear them, so I draw them to me. So I'm not like, I don't have an attachment that I bring from place to place. But when I show up, if there's anything in the area, it might start trying to show itself to me. And that's why I will never live by a cemetery or some such like that. But um, I lived in two places that were actively haunted and a haunted apartment with a very creepy story because in that apartment, in the bathroom, in the mirror, I'd see a man walk down the hallway behind me. And he always looked the same and he looked like a real person. It was very scary. And he was going to the back of the apartment. There's no way out back there. And I was always scared that he was going to stop behind me and I would be looking at his face in the mirror. So I ended up covering up the mirror with a hand towel and I just brushed my teeth with no mirror and stuff like that. I was done with the mirror. But
Very interesting. I find it interesting that you have activity while you're writing a book, and then once the book is published, it's almost like why a lot of spirits appear to people. They have a message. They just want to be noticed and try to get their message out. And once you
I
acknowledge that and get and listen to their message, they tend to go where they need to go.
well, I don't think that's what it is. I think depending on the book, the severity of it, I think I actually kind of become part of the story because I'm part of the process and the energy with the book. I believe it'll try to slow down the publishing. Especially books that have demonic cases and have prayers, and books like yours that will tell how you address the situation and the prayers you use. I believe they don't like that going out in the world.
Well,
That I put them out. Once they're out and they can't stop it anymore, then I become uninteresting, and that's fine with me.
weirdest for me, and there's like I said, there's I could go on and on and on. Here at the house, that is. But what I will, one that just for some reason is right at the top of my thoughts here. I had a ghost here call 911 from my house, and we didn't even have a landline. Figure that one out.
Mm,
Sharon, she was still an office manager at an animal hospital at the time, but on the weekends she had a part-time job as a special usher for the Thomas and Mack Center here, and she would work concerts. So she was at work. It was a Saturday night. I left for about an hour and a half to go say goodbye to some good friends who were here visiting from England. They were going home in the morning. So I went there to go say bye to them and stuff, and I was coming back. It was nighttime, but I pulled into my driveway and I just sensed something was just weird.
mm.
I got out of my car and I took one step towards my house. All these flashlights hit me, and next thing I know, there was a SWAT team on me, and they got me face down on the ground, spread eagle. And
Wow.
yeah, it was apparently they received a 911 call from the house. They arrived there. Nobody's there, so nobody answered the door. But my dogs, I had three mastiffs at the time. My mastiffs were going crazy. So the cops thought maybe the mastiffs turned on their owner and were killing this person, or someone broke in and they're being mauled to death by the dogs, and they got the last second 911 call out to save their life. Um, and they were just getting ready to bust in there. Animal control was there, and I got there just in time because I know for a fact they would have had to shoot my dogs, and
Whoa,
that would have just
terrible.
I would have never got over that. So um, it was crazy. I said, listen, I'll open up the blinds on my master bedroom. You can see right in there from the front of the house. I'll bring my dogs into that room, lock the door, and you can see that there's nobody dying in the room. You can see the dogs that they'll be locked up. Then I'll let you in. You can go anywhere you want to go. and I did that. And But this one cop who was like heading up the investigation team, he just couldn't wrap his head around the fact that a 911 call came from a house that had no landline. And here he's looking at my magnets on the car: Ghost Be Gone, Busters for Real, Reverend Shawn Whittington. And he's seen, you know, he's thinking about it and thinking about it. Finally, everybody had left the house. They're getting ready to leave. And he just looked at me and said, "So, I suppose you're going to tell me a ghost called 911." And I just looked at him like this.
Uh-huh.
And he just smiled and he just shook his head and he walked out. I don't know what other explanation. Why would a ghost call 911 from my house? Maybe someone was breaking in. Maybe they were just being mischievous. Maybe they wanted to tease the dogs. Maybe who knows? I never. That was a hard one for me to wrap my head around too, because especially not having a landline here, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. Great story. Well, we have from Infinite Joy, she's saying, once when I was leaving a supposedly haunted pub here in Ireland, as I was walking away, I felt something on my back like a heavy energy that attached to me. What do you think that was? And I would say she answered her own question. It felt like a heavy energy that attached to her because it was a heavy energy that attached to her. And these things happen. And I wasn't really a big paranormal investigator, but if I was involved with something, it was usually to help somebody. I said a lot of prayers and I would say, you can't come with me. And I never took anything from a haunted location. Not a pretty rock, not a nothing. I leave it all there. And even with being careful like that, you can get somebody that they just like you. They like your energy and they've got nothing better to do. So they're going to go check out you and your life for a while. It really is more common than people might think. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. You couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, absolutely. You got to be careful what you also say and do, even if you're just out throwing back a couple of pints with some friends at a pub, especially in, a lot of my friends in England, and I don't argue with them, say England's the most haunted country in the world. I agree. But I loop it all together. Even though, you have more poltergeist activity in Scotland and more leprechaun, fairies, witches type stuff in Ireland, I lump that whole thing as the UK being the hottest area of the world, and I believe that. So I would, and I'm not telling those people something they don't already know, but especially if
Right.
you're going to some of them really old pubs,
Yeah.
uh, back in the day, most of them, the people that owned the pubs lived upstairs, or the pub was attached to a bigger building of some other type of important significance at the back in the day. So, yeah, you're right. It is more common than people would say. Okay, here, ready for the next one?
Right. Well, we got a little message from Michelle Wilfong, and she said, I finally forgiven my late husband. I'm taking his cremains to the Pacific Ocean next weekend.
Oh, very
And
cool.
very cool.
That is so cool. Very, very cool, Michelle. Get back in touch with me after you do that. Let me know how that went. That's a wonderful thing for you to do. Very,
Yeah.
very cool. Well, this one is from Beatrice. I love that name. Beatrice in Florida. Hi, B.
Hi, Beatrice.
I have been a ghost hunter for a while. Been on many haunted tours and investigated many haunted locations. Starting a new team up and already getting requests for residential cases. Till now, it has all been commercial cases. Thoughts? Any advice on going into people's homes? Do you have an opinion?
Well, I do have an opinion, but this is more of your expertise than mine because I tried to avoid it. And I'm very funny about it. And I used to on my website, I would give people advice how to not make things worse. Because, boy, oh boy, yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can make it way worse. And, I think the number one thing that I would say is be careful because, and it's hard, you can find a team, but each team is different and they do it a different way. And some are respectful and some can stir it up and make it worse. And you can't treat the haunting of, an abandoned prison the way you treat someone's personal home and then make it worse and then leave and they're stuck living there with what you did because some teams they treat things kind of interchangeably and they're just trying to solve the case and get their um, pictures or evps or evidence of some kind to validate but they're um, not necessarily thinking what's going to happen tomorrow if you make it worse. It's not as exciting when you're the one living there.
Absolutely. Well, that's a very simple answer for me. Again, respect the client in addition to the location and the spirits. A lot of people reach out to my wife and I because it's just the two of us. They know we're not going to show up with three big black vans and 20 investigators and thousands of dollars of electronic equipment to lay the electronic gauntlet down on their home and make it a big show for all the neighbors. They like the fact that it's these two an elderly couple that shows up and we got no sign. We take the signs off the cars before we go and we show up, shortly after dinner time usually, or sometime early in the day on a weekend, like just some friends visiting. We go in there and we do what we have to do, and they like that. So I would say my advice, and if somebody does call and say, I'd really like the paranormal team to come here. How many investigators you got? Because the more the merrier, and you should come with a lot of equipment and
Mhm.
let's really do it up. You get a lot of attention seekers, and they're easy to pick out. So you want to avoid them.
Mhm.
Um, but usually people don't want it to be a big deal and let the whole world know and their neighbors know they're having these types of issues and they're bringing over, people to their home to help them with their ghost problem. So that's what I would say. Just, um, you know, keep it on the down low and respect,
Right.
in addition to respecting the location and the ghosts, respect the people. But yeah, another thing you got to be careful of, like you said, making things worse because their life is already turned upside down. They're already freaked out. You don't want to make things worse. You want to really be overly concerned all the time about bringing closure to the case when you're in someone's home, um, because there's nothing worse than making things worse,
Right.
and it just you feel really, really, really bad when that happens. And get permission. You bump into a lamp and it's an antique lamp and it falls on the ground and busts. They're mad at you. Um, so you get a permission slip allowing you to come in there, and they're not going to hold you responsible for anything. Um, so that's important too, because you never know. All righty, you ready for the next one?
Next one.
Bob in New York. What happened to the jokes?
Oh, yeah.
Bob,
The
Bob, Bob. What about Bob? What happened to the jokes? You want me to wait till later? You want me to pull a joke out, and then I'll let
go
you
ahead.
decide. Pull a joke.
That's so funny because every now and then you'll say people do ask about the jokes and because we get to talking, we have a guest, and the next thing you know, there's no time to do it.
Okay, I'm gonna pull one out of this haunted carnival Barker hat. Hopefully, it's a good one. And if it's not, I'll pull another one. God, I haven't pulled a joke in forever. What do you call a sad strawberry? A blueberry.
I can't even.
Uh,
I can't even.
I can't even. Well, should I pull another one?
Okay.
Did I rip people off with that one? I don't know what I'm going to pull out of here. This hat's full too. God, I haven't pulled jokes in forever. Last one, guys. We'll move on. Uh, why didn't the Melons get married?
Why
Because
didn't
they
the Melons get married?
because they can't elope.
Oh God,
Oh man, those are good. I like those.
that was cute.
Okay.
That's a groaner.
Okay, Bob. There you go. There's your jokes. If I get any more joke, I'm going to have to pass them on. You ready for the next one?
Sure.
Okay. James in Michigan. Hi, James.
Hi, James.
Scariest case to date. That's very similar to the weirdest things that have ever happened to me here in the home. But uh, actually, I'm going to tell you what they were, but I'm not going to really go into them because both stories are very, very long. I'll give you the gist of them, but I really go into detail and write about them in length and in depth in book one, God Goes to the Paranormal Ministry. Um, they would have to be my wife's extreme demonic attack, which was supposed to take her life. And we spent 5 years fighting for her life. She's still here with us, thank you, Jesus. And we got through that. But we played with a Ouija board on a residential case. We didn't know what we were doing. This is long before I even became a deliverance minister. And whatever was at this house, I believe, attached to us through us using this Ouija board. And it followed us home, and it took residence up here in our house for about 2 months. And during that time, things were very ugly, very crazy. We didn't know what to do. I reached out to the paranormal community for help, and for once they came through for me. They introduced me to my then mentor, who is now retired. She was an ordained exorcist. She took me under her wing, taught me how to fight this thing and get it out of the house. And we ultimately were successful in doing that, but it came at great cost. My wife at the time, healthiest person I knew, didn't drink, didn't smoke. Um, she came down with three very rare forms of cancer. Now, she's a Stephen minister in the Lutheran faith. So think about this for a minute. They attacked anything that would help her get the Lord's message out. She had medullary thyroid cancer, which is the worst of the two types of thyroid cancer. It spreads, and it did spread to a lot of lymph nodes into her neck. She had squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue. Her tongue became one solid giant mass, and that spread and became another rare form of throat cancer. She couldn't talk for about a year. She couldn't swallow even water for almost a year. She had a feeding tube in for well over a year. Many, many surgeries. Um, um, yeah, she wasn't supposed to make it through that. So, radiation, chemo, all. Yes, the surgeons, the radiation, and the chemo did save her life. But it was also divine intervention. I mean, she was dying one night here at the house, and I knew she wasn't going to make it to morning. And I went to an all night prayer chapel around the corner and crawled on my hands and knees all the way up to the altar. And I just sat there and prayed for about 2 hours to anybody who would listen. And I made a bargain with God. I don't advise people to do that, but I made a bargain with God, begging for Him to please, not take her from me. I came home from that experience, and it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and my phone was ringing. Sharon was still alive. My phone was ringing. I answered it, and it was a friend of mine who was dying from advanced colon cancer, and he was in New York, and he was just days away from passing away. But the last time I spoke to him, he sounded bad. Well, this time he sounded wonderful, so upbeat, so happy. I said, "Dude, what's going on? Why'd you call me?" He said, "Well, I don't have much time left. I wanted to tell you, he was an atheist. Remember, a lifelong atheist, believed in nothing. Once we're dead, we're done." And he said, "I just saw God, and God told me to call you and tell you that Sharon is going to live, and you need to continue fighting those responsible. Well, I had left the ministry work because I I was, I was done. And he didn't lie, He Sharon made it, and she's still here with us. We still have our issues, her issues, a lot of issues, but she made it. Last full body CT and MRI show no signs of any of the diseases having metastasized anywhere, and so knock on wood, thank you Jesus. So that was part of my bargain that I would get back to fighting the forces of evil if God spared Sharon's life, because I still feel guilty over that. I feel that it was my fault that happened in the first place because I drug her to this really ugly demonic case, not knowing any better. And she's a sensitive intuitive. I should have known better, and they always attack those closest to you that you love, not never you. Although I guess my number two scariest case would be when I came under extreme demonic attack at a case, an exorcism case, and colleagues of mine do feel that I actually died during that attack, and it was only divine intervention that brought me through that. So both those stories are in book one, um, and
And
so,
I
but those
always
are
tell
long
people,
stories. So I know we're pressed for time. I didn't want to go too crazy into them.
Father Sean's books are the scariest books I ever did. And book two, there's three stories that stand out to me in book two as well: the haunted nursing home, the haunted gypsy carnival. Well, I don't know you haunted gypsy carnival, but the gypsy carnival story, and then the story with the Native Americans here in Oklahoma, and the guy that was turning into a werewolf, so to speak, that possession case.
Yeah.
But you can never predict. That's what I love as a publisher. It's like you can never predict what's going to happen next in his stories. They're just so, you know, of course, because they're real stories. But I mean, a lot of stories you kind of like, this is what's probably going to happen, but not necessarily. Not in Father Sean's world. So,
Yeah. Oh, there's just
I
I
like
sometimes
him.
I go into my files, and there's so much. I don't want my books to be like, the size of War and Peace. So I have to. I always, and that's funny you say that. I always pick stories that right to the very end, whether the case ended bad or ended good, I didn't know what was next, and they were very emotionally and physically taxing on me and Sharon, and absolutely not to the very end did I know what was going to happen, how it was going to end. And so those
Right.
are usually the ones I pick out. But so yeah, the three that you mentioned there are very interesting ones. And actually, the Indian case was a Native American, I should say, was here. It was on the outskirts, way, way, way outskirts of the Vegas Valley at a Paiute reservation here locally. It wasn't in Oklahoma, but they had many ties there to Native Americans in
Why do I
Oklahoma.
always think that?
Well, because you know what, my
Oh, yeah, they
father
have
is
to
born
say.
and raised there, and we have a little bit of Wyandotte Seneca Indian in us from
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that region of the
That
country. That's probably
that
why.
is not very far from where I'm sitting right now.
Yep.
And they have a lot of stories that come out of that part of the state, probably the whole state, but that part of the state I've heard a lot about.
Ready for the last one?
Last one.
Bet from Washington State.
Hi, Bet.
I know you are a Ghostbusters fan. Yes, I am. So am I, she says. Have you ever seen ectoplasm? She's probably referring
Oh,
to the
interesting.
ectoplasm they saw at the, well, two
Right,
different times when Vakeman gets slimed and then that stuff
right,
that's on the books in the library in the beginning.
right.
I have. Usually it's either the black mist or it's a white mist. Physical ectoplasm, I've actually seen that twice. I got vomited on one time by a demonic entity, and the other time was in a home here in Las Vegas um, that actually was featured on an old Ghost Adventures episode many, many years ago. But I had investigated that home years before that team came in there, and I actually saw ectoplasm bleeding out of the walls that just very similar to the reports that the Lutzes used to give about the bleeding walls, very similar to that. So yeah, I have seen it, and it is real. Just don't ingest it. Be very careful with that. Have you ever seen ectoplasm, Annette?
No, no experience with it at all whatsoever.
Yeah, it's very weird. Very, very weird stuff. Um, well, we've got it's a quarter till. You want to hit the prayer urn?
We can hit the
Switch
prayer.
thing, switch things up a little bit here, and go to the prayer urn.
We had someone in chat that said they were going to ask a question, but they haven't done it. So,
I do not see it. Oh, is it iMaster
right,
1543? Can you read my message? Well, that answers your question, iMaster. I can read your message.
right.
So we'll see if he pops
We're,
on here before I
we're
give a prayer. I'll read this prayer, though, real quick. Alex in Washington. I am a baptized Catholic. I
Hi,
drifted away from the church for a few years. In that time, I have sinned. We all have. I sin every day. A lot, he says. Some sins I fear I may not be forgiven for. What you will be forgiven. What should my next move be? I want to come back to church and atone for my sins. Well, I'm going to take that back, Alex. I don't know. If you've murdered somebody, we're talking a different issue. Um, Purposely and willfully, like committed murder, that's a different story. You need to go to confession. Um, but what I will tell you to do, your Psalm 51, pull it up online, print it out, and recite Psalm 51 every day and ask for God's forgiveness. But you need to either reach out to me privately after the show, and maybe we can get together on a Zoom call and I can take your confession, or go to the nearest Catholic church to you. If you've done something like murdered, um, you still need to confess that to the priest. He's not going to run to the police and tell on you. He's going to advise you to turn yourself in, but he's not going to do it. But you need to go to the nearest Catholic church, go to confession. Then, if ask the priest if it's depending on what your sins were, ask the priest if it's okay to attend mass and receive Holy Communion. But you need to do if that's how you truly are feeling, you need to do that ASAP. But print out Psalm 51. It's a song of forgiveness, asking for forgiveness. Um, it's beautiful. So do that. Put it on your magnet it to your refrigerator or tape it to a door and recite Psalm 51 every day. But yeah, you need to if you know
that
there is
that
God forgives. If you truly are sorrowful in your heart and you want God's forgiveness, you will be forgiven.
that's beautiful that you said Psalm 51, and also just for whatever it's worth, every night I read Psalm 91.
I do too. That's like the unofficial psalm of exorcists. So that's a very important one.
Right.
Yes. All righty. I'll pull another one from the prayer urn because we are getting a little short on time here. Jimmy from California. Hi, Jimmy.
Hi, Jimmy.
Not too long ago, I was in a really dark place. I was not a man of God, but an angel saved my life.
Ooh,
I was contemplating suicide. For all those struggling in dark places that need God, please pray. Well, in honor of guardian angels everywhere, I will tell everybody they exist. They're very real. You should pray to your guardian angel every day. I've seen mine twice and heard her voice once. I saw her once while I was about to drown in the ocean off the coast of Southern California. I was caught in a riptide, was young, and I couldn't get back to shore.
Mm.
And this young lady was dog paddling not too far from me and asked me, swim this way. And as soon as I was able to swim towards her, I got out of, well, maybe it was still there, but she helped me get into shore. And when I crawled up to the beach, the lifeguard was there and said, I was just getting ready to swim out to you. I could tell you were struggling. I said, well, I got help from that girl. And he said, what girl? There's nobody out there with you. And then I saw her again when I was just about, I'd fallen asleep at the wheel in my truck late one night, drunk on my way home from a party. And I was about to drive off a cliff. And she
Oh,
appeared in my passenger seat next to me and yelled at me to wake up. And I just
wow.
remember waking up, seeing her, seeing the cliff, and cranking the wheel over and fishtailing it away from the edge of the cliff and back across the freeway. I did end up crashing head on into the concrete center divider, and I flipped end over end.
Oh my
This
God.
is, yeah, I was about to get pulled over by the highway patrol, matter of fact, because I was swerving so bad. And when they pulled me out, I saw pictures of my car later. The engine block is in the seat where I was sitting, and the roof is all the way down on top of the engine block. How I survived that crash, we all know how I did. But then during my demonic attack, I mentioned earlier in the show, where colleagues feel I actually died, I heard a woman's voice say, pray, dummy, pray. So I started praying, and the only thing I could think to pray was, I probably said 50 Our Fathers and 50 Hail Marys and came out of this attack. Um, but if I hadn't heard her voice, I probably wouldn't be here having this discussion with
Wow.
you. So on that note, I will offer this prayer up to not only my friend here, Jimmy in California, but to everybody's um, guardian angels. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom his love commits me here, ever this day be at my side, to light and guard, to rule and guide. Amen.
Amen.
And that's what I will say to everybody. Pray to your guardian angel every day. They can't just
Every
help
day.
you. It's all about the free will. You have to ask for their help.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if you need help, you ask your guardian angel to help you. Everybody's got at least one or more. I probably have a whole team of them. But trust me, they are real, and you need to pray to them every day. You can go online and type in guardian angel prayers, and you get about 1,000 of them. And just scroll through there, and you several of them will jump out at you and really speak to you. And print those out, and make it a point to at least once a day say a prayer thanking your guardian angel and asking for them to intervene in your life and help you when you need it.
And
And you
also Archangel Michael for protection and Archangel Raphael for healing. I put that Archangel Raphael prayer that I say every night. I put it on my Facebook page, but um, the shortest version, Archangel Raphael, please let me sleep in a bubble of your healing and protection with God's permission.
I love that. I love that. Um,
And I've had people say that between that and the Archangel Michael prayer, that stops a lot of what they feel like are attacks at night or even bad dreams and things like that they sleep peacefully if they say those prayers or even one or the other at night, if that helps anybody.
well, we have just a few minutes left. Real quick, I will comment on Infinite Joy's last comment, who said, I would love to see my guardian angel. Um, it's funny. A lot of people find this very amusing, but it's true. My guardian angel looks like a young Susan Sarandon. I kid you not. And it's an ongoing joke between my wife and I. I can be here in the office working, and she can be watching TV at the other end of the house. And if a TV show or a movie or a commercial comes on with her, she'll yell out, your guardian angel is on TV. Um, she does look like a young Susan Sarandon from like Rocky Horror Picture show
Yes.
time in her life, and it's just so interesting. But yeah, saw her twice in my life, and the voice that I heard, I'm sure, was her during that demonic attack of mine, and so I pray to her every day, several times. So before I kick you out of here, is there anything you'd like to say? Oh, let me tell you who we got next week, Friday the 13th.
We have the producer of the movie that Susan's in.
Yeah, producer, writer, director of Stonegate, which is an excellent
Stonegate.
paranormal
True story.
uh, thriller, true story thriller, whodunit, murder mystery movie, Stonegate. He will be here. Daniel Groom will be here next Friday, which is Friday the 13th. Everywhere they
Very
filmed that movie, all the locations were haunted. He's also a member of Mass Hauntings, which is a team out there. So he's going to probably have lots of good stories to tell us on a Friday the 13th. So, anyway, I love you. I want you to have a great remainder to your Friday and your weekend. And I will see you next Friday.
love you too. Really enjoyed this show. It's the fastest hour of the week, every week, without fail. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. You can always send a question to Father Shawn. Um, and if you're not here in person, you can watch it later to hear what was said. And have a great weekend.
I love you, Annette. I'll see you later.
Love you.
Bye bye. Annette Munich, Stellium Books. If you are thinking about writing a book, or you've already written a book and looking for a publisher, reach out to her. She will help you. Okay, so I hope everybody had a good time. Thank you to United Public Radio Network for picking up the show. God bless Joe Montaldo and Michelle DeRoche for making that happen. And God bless each and every one of you, because I don't have a show without you guys. And I mean that. That's heartfelt. I mean that. So thank you all for tuning in. Stay tuned for Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. We're just getting started here on High Strangeness Friday on UPRN. So, what else do I want to tell you guys other than I love you all? Um, the devil, he's very real. We may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. I love you all. God bless you all in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Peace.